What the session will be talking about is why are brands ignoring 4.5 billion of multi-ethnic consumer spend? And you may have already seen Lydia on stage earlier as part of our panel expertly chaired by Greg. But this one's going to also include Shelly of News UK, so I'm really looking forward to it. So without further ado, I'm going to stop talking, which you'll be glad to hear, and I'm going to pass over to our wonderful panellists. So big round of applause.
Thank you very much. I've got this light shining right in my eye. Let me just come over here a little bit like that. You okay, Shelly?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much for being here today. It's a pleasure to be here at Media Tell's Future of Brands event. Before we start with today's conversation, just thought I'd just lay a bit of a foundation to make sure that you get the best out of this talk and you can go away with some information, insights, and maybe some actionable steps, hopefully, after we've finished our talk. Does that sound good? Excellent. Okay, so I'll start with we'll be here for about 15 minutes and we'll be leaving some space for questions. So just just sit back, listen, take it in, and then, come and ask us some questions and we'll hopefully be able to support you with your businesses around this amazing opportunity and this incredible audience. Sound good? Yeah? Good, I want to get some life out of you. Okay. Okay. All right.
I'm scared that you'll jump in the audience. She's already threatened me with this. So I'd like to take an opportunity to introduce Lydia. Lydia is CEO of Backlight, a cultural change agency and the founder of the Black Pound Report, which is the most comprehensive research into Black, Asian and multi-ethnic consumers ever carried out in the UK. She's recognised as one of Britain's leading authorities on diversity, equality and inclusion. She's a pioneer, a history maker and an absolute game changer who works so hard and has done for many years. It's been so incredible to work with you on the Black Pound Report. Really excited that you came to us at News UK and gave us the opportunity to work with you. It's your passion. We're going to hear a little bit more about it, but it's also about the fact that Lydia really, really cares about people, diversity and equality, and it's why it's so successful. Yeah. And we're here today. It's great to be here with you.
Yeah, thank you, Shelly. And we thought it'd be really good to introduce each other. There's nothing better than bigging each other up, I think, this way. You don't have to hold back. So,
she gave me all the words.
I did. Okay, so I'd like to introduce you to Shelly Bishton. She is the Creative Head of Diversity at News UK, one of the leading media businesses in the United Kingdom and Ireland, and includes titles that you'll probably be all aware of, like The Times, the Sun, wireless radio stations, and TalkSport, Times Radio, and Virgin Radio, and they've just launched Talk TV. Okay, and Shelly works across diversity with a real laser sharp focus, and they're trying to get, her vision is to ensure that we've got better representation in the media. And Shelly has a huge responsibility because there's 3,500 people that work at News. So Shelly has got, she's got a big responsibility there. And so she has to be someone that's really passionate about all of this to even take on that role in the first place. And she wants to ensure that talent is readily available to businesses. And most importantly, she's a mum and she wants to make sure that there's a brighter future for her children as well. That's really important to Shelly, I know that much.
So, let's get to the first question.
Okay.
Lydia, enlighten us, please. Okay. I feel like this is a no-brainer, but why should brands care about the multi-ethnic consumer in the UK?
Okay, so it starts like this. Before I answer that question, I know people may have heard me say this already, but I will always share this story. When I was in my early 20s, I walked into a department store and I inquired about some makeup, and the sales assistant said, look, they only stocked normal colours for normal skin. And that wasn't a good moment at all. It wasn't a good moment at all. And it was a good thing because I held my fire in. But what I decided to do at that point was to say that I don't want anybody else to have the experience that I did at that time. Because at so many levels, the woman was saying to me that my skin was of no value, I was of no value, products to be creative. She was just saying so much. And apart from it just being, discriminatory and, bordering on racism, but I thought, actually, businesses have got a huge opportunity here. There's this audience that spends, obviously, a lot on so many different markets, but on health and beauty, it's a huge industry. It's $1 billion industry, and they're missing out. So I just thought, what can I do? I didn't know what it would look like back then, but I thought, what can I actually do to ensure that businesses understand the multi-ethnic audience? So obviously now, second stage of the Black Pound report, we've uncovered that the audience is worth, when I say the audience, consumers in the United Kingdom represent about 18% of society. And you say 18%, but that's 4.5 billion, and that's disposable income. That's a lot of money. And that's an audience you need to be understanding more about, and understanding what are they interested in, all of these different things. So these are the things that drive me to.
And not much has changed. I mean, we're having this conversation just before we came in here.
Yeah.
Someone came up to you today and said their daughter in Hertfordshire was facing the same, having the same conversations about being referred to as normal.
Normal. That's that phrase is still on the lips, And the thing is, I just want to ensure that people understand, businesses understand. Number one, it's a business opportunity. Number two, human beings deserve to be treated equally wherever they go, regardless of their culture, their background, their intersectionality, whoever. And that's the part of every business. So really, Shelley, that's why businesses need to understand more about the multi-ethnic audience. It's so important. Yeah. Okay, so I'm grabbing it away then. She's looking at me going, Lydia, but what about me? Why did News UK actually invest in the Black Pound report?
So just quick background, you introduced my role.
Yeah.
So my role looks at media representation in the UK. At News UK, we're really, really committed to looking at how we can ensure that our products, our content output is more representative of the UK and modern day Britain. Fully acknowledging there's so much work to do. Media is 94% white, there isn't much disabled diversity, there's a lot of work that we need to do, but we're heavily invested in it. We've got a diversity team that I form part of, and one thing that actually on this journey for me, it's like actually we want to look at what is the audience potential for our businesses, for our brands. There wasn't much data out there, if anything at all. And it's imperative that we have that information so we can build business cases. Of course, there is this moral argument for diversity, and we're all here and we want to say that we really want to do, but actually we know that we're working in businesses and we have to present that commercial proposition. So when Lydia came to us and said, the Black Pound report, it was just a complete no-brainer that we supported, not only so we can understand our own audiences and who we want to attract, but also we are going to be changing the conversation about representation for Black and Asian people in the UK, which can only help us look, more responsible as a business, for us to then start attracting more audiences, for us to start attracting more talent. And we've embedded it across our planning process. We've got Karen here who heads up our humongous commercial team at News UK, and we've embedded it in our planning process because we've got the Black Pound data now, and it's just much more granular and looks specifically at these audiences, because you might not know that current research industry standards don't mean you don't need to have quotas for race, ethnicity, sexuality, disability. For me, that blew my brain. That's one of the big, fact-finding things that I found out on this journey. So now we have that data, and we can use that to produce much more insightful looks, like when we get briefed. So, for example, Tesco approached us because they wanted to attract a more diverse young audiences for some opportunities that they had. So we were able to share some really new, insightful information that meant that they could target that audience completely differently. Another great example, actually, is the NHS. So Black and South Asian audiences historically have a real distrust of the NHS. We had, getting lots of like, well, there's lots of reasons why, I'm not going to go into that now. But we had that information, but then also we had the information to back up, is like, how could we look at like approaching that differently, creative? What could the creative output be? So we were able to help the NHS with that. So really, it's just like, this is new, insightful, interesting information. Like, what business wouldn't want that?
Exactly. That's incredible. I love that.
I'm so passionate about this.
No, I love that, and it's just always, it's amazing. When you have a vision for something, you can turn every adversity into something powerful. So to hear that, to have this idea to create the Black Pound report, to explore communities from the Black, Asian, and multi-ethnic backgrounds, to understand their behaviours, needs, and brand preferences and issues that they have, and with the data to be able to provide solutions for businesses. So I'm so happy to hear that it's been part of the Tesco's and NHS campaigns. It's music to my ears. Yeah.
Coming to you again now. So we've got to go back to our businesses.
Yeah.
We've got to explain to our senior decision makers and get them to buy into it. Like, how do we say to them that you need to have a diverse and cultural lens when creating products and services?
Wow, that's a really good question. I mean, just listening to what you've just said there, part of you has actually answered that question already, Shelly. We shouldn't have done that. But you're an audience and you're all intersectional. So I can't, have a broad brush and create a product and service for each and every one of you. It just does not make sense. There's no way. I'd need to find out a bit more about you. I need to find out about, if it was, imagine it was a cream, I'd need to find out who's got allergies, can I put this in the product, can I put this particular ingredients in the cream and so on. So it's really important that within teams, in the innovation stage, and I'm talking about creating a product, we need to ensure that we've got different people, different backgrounds, whether they've been university educated or not university educated. Money doesn't discriminate, people do at the end of the day. So we need to ensure that when you've got all skills at the table, all backgrounds at the table, that means that you can cast your net broader. That means you can understand the intersectionalities and the needs and desires of your audience. To me, doesn't that make business sense? John, would you agree that makes business sense to understand your audience? It does. It makes business sense to understand your audience. Yeah. If you don't, I'm jumping on you. But it's really important. I'm just really passionate about this, and I think, I'm turning that negative situation that happened to me in my 20s, being told that my skin wasn't normal. It's just made me be so razor sharp focused on every experience that a consumer goes through and what they face. Whoever you are, whatever your background, I'm interested. What was that experience like for you? So that's why teams need to be inclusive and diverse. And I'm not talking solely about ethnicity. People from different backgrounds, everything. Because when you do that, you've just got more innovative thinking, Shelly. Yeah, more great ideas that can come to the table. And what do you think?
I'm just going to expand on your point because I think, you're absolutely right. Businesses, content creators, everybody needs to be thinking, I'm really focused on the biases that we have currently in the data and all the systems that we use. And I want to just give you this really, really great example that I heard this week. And it's about the gender data gap.
Oh, yeah.
So it was an experiment that happened in Sweden. Karen, you'd be happy to hear this, where a challenge was posed to a feminist to find the sexism in snow clearing. Note to never challenge a Swedish feminist. But could snow clearing be sexist? Turns out it can. So the standard process for snow clearing in Sweden, much of the rest of the world that has to deal with this kind of situation, is to do major roads first and then to go to pavements and to go to local roads. Turns out this is a bias towards male travel patterns. Men and women tend to travel in different ways. So men do a twice daily commute, whereas women, we tend to have less money than men. And also, when there is a car in the house, the men tend to dominate. So we use more public transport. We have lots of unpaid care work. So the result is we don't have a simple 2-journey car ride. We've got, example, drop the kids to school, we've got to get on the commute to work, then we've got to pick up the groceries on the way home, we might even have to pop in to see an elderly parent, so you kind of get the picture. So what they did is they decided to switch it and focus on local roads and pavements first. It wasn't going to cost any more money, so why not just experiment and see? Prove these feminists wrong. What they didn't expect was it would save them money. As it turns out, the admissions to A&E was significantly lower during the winter months because it wasn't men turning up having crashed in the snow, it was women turning up who'd fractured their ankles by falling over in icy conditions. So the cost of A&E was 3 times the cost of the winter road maintenance. I just found that story incredible. Now I want to lay it in race to you all. I talk about this because it really bothers me. There isn't a standard, as I said, for race quotas in research. This is a huge problem, but it's also life-threatening. Just recently, we've seen it's established that oximeters, so the small devices used to test oxygen levels in the blood, do not work effectively on darker skin. This is vital information to tackle COVID. And what have we seen? A higher proportion of Black and Asian people dying from COVID. So what I'm basically trying to say, I know but I just want people to think about the importance. Essentially, businesses need to ensure that they have the right data and research available to make smart decisions in everything they do, in everything we create. And then you need the right mix of diversity, to your point, in that room, because obviously there was no women in the room and then they're creating the strategy for that snow clearing, you know. So then actually, diversity isn't just this buzzword that we're all like, oh God, diversity is going to be so boring. It's that actually diversity is essential to your business. It's essential for your business to grow as we move into a much more modern day world.
Yeah. I mean, just listening to what you just said there, all I can think about is, do most of the just by showing of hands here, do most of you in your businesses use data to drive the decisions that you make?
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And you know that diverse data, we found out as well through doing this study, is the most expensive data to actually happen. So that's why in market research it becomes, you know, thrice, 4 or 5 times the money to actually do multicultural, multi-ethnic data. So sometimes businesses decide, well, it's a bit too expensive, so should we do it in the first place? And the answer is yes, because those that do, I mean, News UK, you know, my case study example, as well as other businesses that have invested in the Black Pound report, but the difference is you invested in helping me reach a 4,000 plus audience actually, of as the survey was. So it's 3,400 people from Black, Asian and multi-ethnic backgrounds we were able to research, and then we did we looked across the generations as well. So we looked into Caucasian audience as well, so we could do that comparison as well. So we could tell what the difference is. We explored who is the multi-ethnic consumer. That's really important for you to know. What their likes, dislikes, you know, what causes them to boycott a brand. We discussed this earlier, didn't we, Greg? What encourages them to actually invest in the brand. How do you get brand loyalty from the multi-ethnic consumer? We looked into health and beauty. You know, one of the stats, £230 million a month is spent on health and beauty. That is, I was like, what? And then 2.7 billion a year spent on health and beauty. £1.2 million a month spent on drinks. That's at home. At home. So it's just incredible.
So essentially, come get your data.
Yeah, come get your data.
And come and advertise with us.
Yeah, exactly. We'll break down your data. We can segment the data, you know, anything you need to know, because we do know that anything in business, it's all about how can we add value to what you do. And how we can add value to what you do is segment the data. We've got a media planning tool. We can break it down. That's why we were able to do the NHS.
Looking at the time, I'm thinking, is there any questions? The time has run out.
Yeah.
But is there any questions? Oh, John.
Okay, John. So it was a good thing to call you out.
Why is multicultural data so much more expensive?
Okay, because number one, the question John just asked is why is multicultural data so much more expensive? What it is that the requisite, you know, when you're doing data research, there's 3 main areas that they will look into. One will be social grade, sexuality, gender, and you know your job, your sort of job role, and they're the main 3 things, because they're always looking. Most businesses, or the way the research world is currently set up, is that it will look at the majority population, so it won't consider the multi-ethnic population, right, Shelly?
Yeah, I was going to also say as well, I think there's a big mistrust as well in research, and they don't complete it. I mean, I worked at YouGov for a while, and it was really, really difficult to get Black and Asian people to do the actual surveys themselves.
And that's why we were successful, because they knew who it was being led by. You know, I've been working in this industry, you've been working in the industry for a long time. So working in this field for over 20 plus years in different guises, but always about inclusion. You know, just didn't know it was called inclusion then. Really, this is about business, about people, isn't it, after all? We're human beings. I don't really... Sometimes I do get concerned this being pocketed under the diversity banner, because ultimately I look at it as this is business, and you have to look at the population, you look at your society, and society is a whole eclectic mix of people, so why not research them and understand more about them, John, you know, so
So it's a smaller sample and it's much harder to
much smaller.
Yeah.
You have to spend
And
a
the
lot
trust
more
is not
money
there,
to kind of
Yeah.
get it, basically.
Yeah, and that's why this time around we were able to get that insight. That's what puts us ahead of any of the research agencies. Apologies if anyone from a research agency sitting in there, but it's true because we've got that data, like 3,500. No one else has been able to do that because the trust was there, that they look behind who's doing the data. Okay, it's this business. Okay, so News UK are backing this, but we can see it's been led by somebody that looks like they resonate with who we are. So it was 100 index questions, the largest, most comprehensive survey. Most questions are about, in surveys, could be 50 questions, 20 questions. This was 100.
I think there was another question.
Yeah.
Karen?
Yeah, well, it's not really a question, it's a statement. I suppose big shout out to Tara from UK, so shameless plug.
Okay.
But any brands, any agencies, they want us to come in and talk. Shelly, Lydia to come in, round table, big selfishly for us.
Yeah.
Yes, as Shelly said, it benefits. But this is a piece of work that we just genuinely help society, so we are open to those conversations.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll be doing roundtables. Hello, yeah. There's a few hands. Who's doing Okay, oh, sorry, I apologise. Then we come to you after.
I was going to ask, what was maybe one of the most surprising things you found, I guess, within your research about multi-ethnic consumer spending? Or was there anything that's like, you found that was contradictory to maybe industry assumptions?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I would say that when it came to the finance section, that was quite interesting because we had I know I'm being filmed here, but I'll just say it anyway. So we had the UK finance reach out to us because they were concerned with the way the messaging was going out to say why were people from multi-ethnic backgrounds, especially black people, being charged more for products and services when it came to financial products. And but we just said the facts remain, they're there. We haven't made this up, essentially. And so I was really surprised of that statistic, that the overpricing for financial assets and to have the access to that information, which then explains so much when you look at society, like access to mortgage, access to funding, access to capital, and all of those things. But then also, I didn't realise, as much as I knew that within the beauty industry that there was a lot of expenditure in it, I didn't realise it was going to be 230 million. When they said 230 million, I said, was that per year? They went, no, Lydia, per month. So that is humongous, which is why Fenty, in the first few years, already making billions. Yeah.
I think for me it was travel.
Was it travel? Oh, yeah. Gosh.
It was about travel, and it was about, and when I realised it, I realised I felt it too.
Oh, gosh, yes.
And it was this kind of underserving to Black and Asian communities with travel, in terms of targeting us for more like European travel, and especially around the holidays, and kind of this feeling of exclusion from travel. And actually, I thought, well, that's true, because I never feel like, when I see trips to Greece or trips to Spain, it feels like it advertises to me, but I go. I mean, Crete is one of the places I go every year, but I don't feel advertised to. So I think travel's got a big opportunity
you're right,
with the stuff. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. Okay, we've got somebody. Then after that,
what's your view on black owner businesses, particularly?
Yeah.
I'm going to use hair as an example.
Yeah.
Where they're black owner business, black owner hair brands that then subsequently then get sort of taken up and over by businesses that aren't representative in the board at all, yet targeting the black audience and making the 230 million per week. Does that not matter?
No, that's a really. I'm looking down because I'm thinking about. I'm a black business owner, and I'm thinking about the first research I was able to fund myself, as you know, and that nearly put me out of home and out of my marriage as well. I've been laughing about that, but it was like, we're going to lose this house. Okay, so but basically, second time round, obviously News UK supported us, and Channel 4 supported us alongside as well. But our lead sponsor is News UK all the way. Some people could say, well, why did you get funding from News UK to do this research? Somebody could ask me that question, and I'd be very contradictory to say to a brand, a black-owned business maybe that really needs that influx of capital to basically be sustainable and still have shares and be involved in that business. I'll say if that keeps them in business, great. But what we can do is when businesses become more inclusive, and understand the value of this is a part of a KPI, something to measure within business, then that may be happening less and less, you know?
I guess you could still argue you're still here, so
Yeah.
this is, you know.
And we're seeing
Yes.
more accountability, aren't we? We're
Yeah.
seeing more accountability. Businesses can't just put a badge on it and say they're
No.
doing it. I mean, we even find that at News UK. Companies are coming to us, and before they advertise with us, they're like, what's your diversity strategy?
Yeah.
What are you doing? And that's good. And I think the more pressure that we put under,
Yeah.
and I think advertisers have a big role to play in that. Brands do, because if they apply that pressure, they're the ones who are spending the money, and if they refuse to spend the money, then we'll make sure we fix our diversity strategy. I think there's kind of a balancing act, but accountability is definitely higher, I think, on that.
Thank you.
Thank
There's
you.
a lady behind you. There's two more. Oh, so we got. Oh, she's been putting her hand up. Can we not just do that last one? Okay, really quick. Go on. Yeah, go.
We are now entering a recessed economy, where we are with shortfall going on.
Yeah.
And everything that you say is all critical, all valid, but if third marketers out there say, look, my budget's finite,
Yeah.
by this intentionality, I want to appeal to everybody. I can't keep everybody on the brand.
Yeah.
How do you help brands stay accountable that this is a as opposed to a nice
Yeah. That's a really good question. Well, number one, we've got the tool. Now we've got the data, so we can segment it and give the evidence, because it's like, you know, if you're about to invest in something, you need all the information in front of you before you can make that investment, whatever size or percentage of investment you decide to go in at. You obviously need to find out how you can add value, you know, what percentage drive are they looking for within that business. So it's a really valid question, and that's the way you can do it. But I'd finish on this to say is that all the businesses that are here in the room, I don't know all about who you are, what your background is, but you've probably got your audiences that you're continually communicating with. You probably know a lot about them already. They know a lot about you already, but you've got this untapped audience, which so the question is, how can you afford not to? Yeah. Sorry, Sam.
Sorry.
We've gone over time. That's good that we had all these questions, Shelly.
I just want to say a huge thank you. And
Thank
a
you.
round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, Shelly.